This conference will now be recorded.
You ready to go?
Yes.
Right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Economic Development and Planning meeting on June 16th. It is 6 o'clock. Is there any discussion before we start out? There's no discussion. We have one resolution. Resolution is authorizing the Montgomery County Executive to sign the First Amendment of the Greater Mohawk Valley Land Bank Municipal Agreement. We have a sponsor.
I'll sponsor.
So Dan sponsored, and John, you want a second?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Chair, are we going to get a little better reporting from the land bank as time goes forward?
Well, I've had a couple of discussions in the past 2 days with John Mazzarella, Carl Gusman, and Tolga, and let them know what the discomfort was so far and what they had to work on. And one of the things was reporting. I did ask for and received the list of things that they were doing in the past since they started in Montgomery County, and I sent a copy to everyone. If anybody has any questions on that, I can handle it. Or if you'd like, I'd like to give just a brief synopsis of what the amendment or amendments are to the intermunicipal agreement. So there's three things that are important. The first is that the amendment is to extend the current IMA and basically just doing that. The second thing is the ability for the land bank to create LLCs, limited liability companies, so they can limit the liability or address potential environmental issues on properties that they receive. I would guess that that's kind of like forming a shell company to keep the assets separate. And then the third amendment was that the board members originally had to reside in the county that they were representing on the land bank. They changed that so that doesn't have to be. You don't have to be a resident of Montgomery County to be appointed by Montgomery County to be on the land bank board. So is there any discussion on any of that? So if there's no discussion on that, all in favor? Aye.
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 Against? Abstained? Okay, so it looks like we'll move that to the full legislative body next week. Is there anything else that we need to discuss? If there isn't, can I have a motion to adjourn this committee?
I make a motion.
Ryan, seconded by
Martin.
Martin, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. It's 6:03 p.m. Thanks. Guess we have 2 more minutes, huh? 1 more minute.
Correct.
Cheryl, do we
Cheryl?
have Greg and Greg?
Greg Truckenmiller is on. I'm not sure about Greg Wilbur.
Yes, I'm
Greg-
here, Cheryl.
You're muted. Oh, Greg Wilbur's there.
Yes, I'm here.
Can you let the other Greg know he's muted?
Yeah, I know. I'm
Okay,
off mute
good.
now. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, I'll call the Education and Government Committee meeting to order. It is Tuesday, the 16th at 6:05. Under discussion, privilege of the committee members, any other legislators, anything to discuss? Okay, hearing none, we're going to go to a presentation by the acting president, Greg Truckenmiller, and Greg Wilbur, vice president. They're going to kind of give us an update on what's going on. And you're going to see later in the meeting tonight that the bond resolution that we voted on last month for $250,000. There's been some problems getting that money from the state and being able to do that project. So they're able to do another type of project, and they're going to talk about that this evening. So, Greg, I don't know who's going to go first.
I'll kick it off, Legislator Headwell. This is Greg Truckenmiller. And thank you for inviting us this evening. As Legislator Headwell mentioned, we received word recently that from the SUNY Office of Capital Facilities that the New York State Division of Budget is, has a moratorium on capital projects, and they are focusing on health and safety. Are you guys? Am I echoing badly when I talk? Because I am
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So the capital projects that you had approved for this year were not going to pass muster with the Division of Budget. So we need to we needed to take another approach, which is the projects that we have in our master plan for next year. And we know next year is going to be a difficult year for all of us. Not that this year isn't. But our projects next year were focused more on health and safety. So we took a look at what we had prioritized in that master plan, and what we would like to discuss with you tonight, and Greg's going to fill you in with a little bit more detail, is some health and safety projects that we would like to move forward this year that we've been in discussions with SUNY that we understand will be approvable. And we're looking to spend about half of the money that we had originally proposed, for a couple of reasons. One, that represents the health and safety projects that we have. And two, we know that this is a difficult time for everybody. So, we understand, the loss in sales tax revenue, the loss in state aid that we're all experiencing. And, there is this narrow window of opportunity to actually get some projects done that need to get done. And so we wanted to bring that to you. We had a meeting last week with both Legislator Headwell, Fulton County was represented as well. So we discussed these projects at that meeting, and now we're going to bring it to you for your consideration. And with that brief introduction, I'll kick it off to let Greg pick up and fill in with a little bit more detail.
Yes, again, thank you for inviting us here tonight. We had the project, of course, for $1 million for science lab renovations, of which Montgomery County was going to fund $250,000 of that. We had another $300,000 for a financial technology classroom. Our college foundation was going to fund the matching piece of that. And as Dr. Truckenmiller said, Division of Budget won't approve such programmatic type projects. So we had several other items that are health and safety related that are actually overdue at this point. So the timing would be great for us to be able to tackle those. And we believe they can fit within the same capital project number that SUNY and DASNY have already approved for us. There's 4 items altogether. The largest one is our fire alarm system. Our fire alarm system has been on pace to be obsolete by 2023, but in recent months, the manufacturers let us know that their planned obsolescence was moved up to May of 2020. So what that means is that as of last month, they're no longer making any new parts for it, any new fire alarms, any new panels, things of that nature. So we've been on task to replace the fire alarm system building by building as we do capital projects. O'Connell Hall, for example, was part of the $1 million project this year was replacing the fire alarms and fire alarm panels for O'Connell Hall. What we would like to do, since the manufacturer sped up the date for their planned obsolescence and we're now past that date, is we'd like to actually complete the remainder of the college and get that done. That was on our list for next year. It would be great if we could tackle it this year. That's roughly $325,000. Approximately $25,000 of that would be funded by our daycare funding that we get through SUNY. The remaining roughly $300,000 would be part of the capital project itself. We also have a large chiller that we use that cools the three of our larger buildings on campus. It's also kind of past its expiration date. It's needed to be refurbished for a couple of years. And for roughly $100,000, we can refurbish it, get a 5-year warranty out of it, and hopefully get closer to 10 years out of it in terms of its usage. So that's $100,000 worth. And then we have an alarm for our wastewater treatment plant. The New York State DEC has been requiring, they've been on us for a couple of years to get an alarm installed within the wastewater treatment plant. We monitor our wastewater treatment plant 3 times a day, every day, and we're within the limits that are set for us. But again, the DEC has been requesting and requiring that we install an alarm inside the plant itself. And we have a quote of roughly $60,000 to get that done. And then the fourth and final piece is JMZ, our architects, did design work and the bidding work and so on for us related to the Classroom Labs capital project. So we have a bill coming in from them for probably roughly $15,000 or so that we need to pay. All told, it's roughly $500,000. It gets several things off our list that were both part of this year's capital project. The original one, the chiller and the fire alarms for the O'Connell Hall, were part of the original capital project this year. And the rest were slated for next year's request for capital projects. And so that encompasses all that we're trying to achieve this year for the $500,000.
Does anybody have any questions for Greg in regards to this project? Okay. Greg, you want to talk real quick about the budget?
Yes. It's the time of the year to consider our operating budget. This month we will be looking for the legislature to set a public hearing for next month for consideration. We are not asking for any sponsor increase this year. We've put together a budget that tries to plan for the worst case scenario out there and also give us flexibility if things turn out better than we hoped. So the actual contribution from Montgomery County would stay level for what it was last year in Fulton County as well, last couple of years. And we would like to come next month to your committee and give you a more detailed presentation of that budget. But and we're happy to talk through the details now as well. But we know that at this point you're just your task is to set a public hearing. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, or Greg will as well, on our operating budget.
But you're planning on coming next month to the meeting to deal with any questions in regards to the budget itself?
That's correct. Yep. hopefully you've had a chance to at least see it. I think Cheryl has received it and hopefully distributed it.
Yes.
But next month is the month when we would typically come and give you a more detailed discussion.
Okay. Well, thank you. So I need a sponsor now for the resolution setting the date of the public hearing on FMCC's proposed 2020-21 budget.
I'll sponsor it. Number 7.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor, move into full board.
Aye.
Abstain? No? Okay. And the second resolution authorizing the FMCC Campus Lab and Classroom Phase 3 project, health and safety. I need a sponsor.
Number
3.
Who sponsored it?
5.
5. Second.
7.
Any discussion on this? All in favor to move it to full board?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved. 6.
Second.
7.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Adjourned. Thank you, Greg and Greg, for attending.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your support as always.
Thank you.
I'd like to call the Physical Services Committee meeting to order. Any discussion on the floor? Hearing none, I'd like to go to the first resolution. Resolution to award a bid and authorize county exec to sign a contract, salt, snow, and ice control under 2020 road maintenance program. Do I have a sponsor for that?
7.
Here.
7 and
3.
3. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right. I guess we'll move that to the full legislature. Next item, resolution amending the Sanitary District 1 2020 operating budget to cover the cost of a new pickup truck. Do I have a sponsor?
I'll sponsor.
Who was that? Brian? Okay. Do I have a second?
3.
3. Okay. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor of move it to a full board?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? So moved. Next resolution authorizing temporary alteration of Schweitzer Hill Road, Town of Mohawk and Public Works. I'll sponsor it and I'm looking for a second.
I'll second it.
I'll second it.
Aye.
Mike Pep, second it.
Among
Any
others.
further discussion on that?
Yes, Chair. And
Go ahead, John.
in the second whereas, you need to swap out abstained with sustained.
Correct.
Duly noted.
Okay, all those in favor as amended to move it to full legislature?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? So moved. Item 5, resolution amending the 2020 operating budget CHIPS, Consolidated Highway Improvement Program funds from Public Works.
9 will sponsor. 9. 7.
3 and 9. Any further discussion on that item? All those in favor of moving that to a full board?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved. And under item 6, we have an add-on resolution. And for the county submitted bids, with M.A. Schaefer Construction, the amount of $278,900. I
Seven.
sponsor legislator Pep. I'll second it. Number 2. Any other discussion? All those in favor of moving that to the full board?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
3.
3 and 2? So moved.
All right, we'll call the Public Safety Committee to order. First thing on the agenda is discussion of the committee or legislators. Does anyone have anything? If not, we'll move right on to the resolutions. First resolution is resolution awarding RFP number 03-20, authorizing the county executive to sign agreement Trinity Services Group, Inc. I'll sponsor. I need a second.
Number 4.
Fair.
John Thayer.
I don't care. Whoever.
Yes.
Any discussion? Jeff, you have anything to add to the resolution? It looks pretty cut and dried.
No, yeah, we're very happy with the services Trinity provides.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution authorizing county executive to sign an agreement, Eastern Medical Support LLC. I need a sponsor.
4.
Number 4 and 5. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? So carried. And the last resolution is a resolution amending the 2020 operating budget with E9 funds. I'll sponsor. I need a second.
I'll sponsor 4.
Number 4. Any discussion? Sheriff, do you have anything to add?
No, the only thing is this originally was stated to be paid for by a grant prior to our arrival. And unfortunately, the money was used for other things. So when this project was finished up during our term, we were left with the final invoice. And I worked with the treasurer, Sean, and using the 911 reserve money to pay this, we think it's an appropriate expense for this money. And it's sad because it takes us away from another project that we're working on, but we'll deal with it and work around it.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Sheriff, can you update us on the tower construction?
Yeah, there is none. So Megan and I have been working hand in hand trying to get Verizon to provide us what we believe the land and the property is worth. And the last conversation I had was about a week ago, and they said there was no way they could provide us that much a month. So I said, well, you're going to have to go back to Verizon and give us a final answer. But they were proposing even less than it was offered to use our current tower space. So that was unacceptable.
Thank you for the update.
All right, on the resolution, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Anything under other? The only thing I have is, boy, I hope we can meet in person next month.
I'll second.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm not on the committee, sorry.
4 and 3.
All right, we'll call the Budget and Finance Committee meeting to order at 6:27 and remind that it's a committee of the whole. Open the floor for any items of discussion. None, we'll move quickly to the dashboard reports. They were sent to you on Thursday, just some of the highlights. Our sales tax through March. Remember, this is as of May 31st. We're looking at actual numbers through March with sales tax and things like federal and state reimbursement. Any item, any income or revenue item less than 36% is in red. Any expenditure greater than 46% is in red. The sales tax actually through March, because we had a good first 2 months and we're $775,000 ahead of last year through February, we began to absorb a little bit of the hit from COVID. And as I think I mentioned last month, don't be surprised if it's just about even through March, and then we're going to start to track behind the prior year. And you can see that we are still ahead year over year from last March, not by a lot, maybe less than $100,000. But since that time, I've spoken with Sean going over these dashboards, and receipts from the middle of March through the end of April, which does include some money you see here, obviously, through March, are down $1,572,000. So it's really the beginning of the effect of COVID and the closed down economy, and we will obviously see that manifest even more next month when we're looking at this as of June 30th through April. So a couple other categories, your state aid DSS and your federal aid DSS. You got the explanation here from Sean. The February entries were recorded in early June. That would increase the state aid DSS up from the 604 that you see there, another 631,000, which would still have us tracking below last year, but we may have processed more claims through then last year. And whereas the federal aid DSS as well is tracking another $1,050,000 from February that was booked in early June. And then that's booked in June through March. I'm sorry, through March. So, and that will bring that figure to about $2.2 million, still below the previous year at $3 million. Sean, any updates from DSS as to whether we've gotten March entries, April entries, and claims and reconciliations?
Yeah. Just to update you, we just did receive March and April entries after we met. So they're all caught up to date with their entries.
All right, so all the claims are in, and are the reconciliations done as well?
They are reconciling as they go, so yes, they're
Okay.
keeping up to date.
All right, good. So May's receipts are supposed to be, claims are supposed to be submitted by June 20th, so we're almost back on track, it sounds like, right? As far as timing and things that were kind of slowed down by, people working remotely, so that sounds good. Departmental income, it's tracking a little behind last year at 33%, but Sean's indicated that, the refuse service is, picking up as the seasonality of it. So we should be in the green there. On the expenditure side, the education expenses are running high. And we know the reason because we've paid FMCC half of their contribution, and then we'll do it again in July and have to catch up with that the rest of the year. And transfers out to the county road fund on an as-needed basis. On the county road fund, miscellaneous, small figure, not worth too much to state aid. is the CHIPS, and you just got the report on CHIPS through that resolution. We are not going to get caught, although Sean did indicate that you read the place, Sean, where there's still a potential perhaps for a 20% cut there.
Yeah, when the NISAC sent the notice out about CHIPS money, there is some verbiage that says there's a potential cut of up to 20%.
Okay, but obviously,
Would that, legislator Pep, would that affect the CHIPS money that we didn't spend from last year?
I don't believe so. It would be the new money. Sean?
No, it would just be the new allocation.
Yeah. Okay. And keep in mind, we discussed this when we were discussing last month, you know, potential 20% cuts and all of these. If he doesn't get the money, he doesn't do the projects. It's not like it's going to set us back other than through capital improvements to our roads and whatnot. But it won't set us back actually. Transportation on the expenditure side there is riding high, but that's because half the snow contracts have been paid, and obviously the other half will be paid in the second half. Onto the road machinery fund. Miscellaneous is a small category. Interfund revenues, it's based on the use of county equipment. We know the story there. And on the health figures, the health insurance fund, we're waiting for the voucher of approximately 1.3 million to be processed by the audit clerk, which would bring this up to about $1.5 million and get us closer to our targets. Other fringe benefits are running high simply because all the FICA, the Social Security, and the workman's comp has been transferred in full. So pretty much regular explanations for some of those things, but with an eye towards obviously the sales tax beginning to decrease. All right, our first resolution up is a resolution rescinding resolution number 83 of 2020, and that is regarding the college and the project that Greg Truckenmiller and Greg Wilbur just indicated will be postponed or canceled because of no state funding. Do I have a sponsor?
Number 4.
And do I have a second?
5.
3.
3. Okay. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Our next resolution is resolution rescinding resolution number 87 of 2020. Again, this is has to do with funding for the labs, which has been put on hold by the state. Do I have a sponsor?
3 or 5.
Okay, number 5, do I have a second?
Martin.
Number 1, any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Our next resolution is a resolution approving the abstract of audited claims.
So moved.
All right, number 1, do we have a second?
The real number 3.
Number 3, the legislator Thayer. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to our last resolution, one that has been subject of a lot of discussion among us in various subsets, and I think it's best for me to give I want to frame this and set us, you know, give a little background on it. I think a couple of years ago, we got looking at this amount of money on the books, and it's an amount of unpaid taxes from the city to us for property taxes that they collected. And actually, Legislator Patel took a lead on this a couple of years ago and looked to meet the city to resolve it some way. At that time, Mayor Villa was in charge. We had a meeting with them. in our chambers or in our quarters with a couple of aldermen there with Sean. And we talked about perhaps some way to resolve this issue. And for whatever reason, it did not materialize much from that point in time. And one of the primary reasons is, in order for us to do anything with this money, the city has to be able to substantiate and corroborate the dollar figures, and they were not in a position to do that at that time. So it kind of fizzled out because they did not provide us the information we needed to forgive it or to consider forgiveness or restructure it or anything of that nature. They hadn't gotten a handle on their numbers. In the meantime, they had the people come in and do an audit of their books and whatnot. And so, you know, they were able at that particular point in time to get a handle on the dollar amount, $1.7 million and change. And so on March 5th, a contingent of us met with the city. It included Legislator Patel, myself, Legislator Duchessis. It included the city controller, his assistant, the mayor, and Sean. We had Sean piped in, and Executive Ossenfort was there. And we talked about concepts on how we could potentially handle this particular amount of money. And various ideas were exchanged from forgiveness of it all to potential restructure of some of it. But obviously there was other things that had to be vetted out. Within 24 hours, Executive Ossenfort got a hold of me. And, you know, I guess actually the exercise was if they could substantiate this full $1.7 million as uncollectible, that perhaps that would be enough information for us to be able to forgive it all if we should so consider. And however, within 24 hours, Executive Ossenfort got to me and indicated that he had heard from Mayor Cinquani that day that of that $1.7 million, 500 and some odd thousand of it, I don't know, 514,000 of it, I guess, was money that they are unable to collect because of the nature of the properties. They're never going to get it. Some of them have been knocked down, this type of thing. And there was another $1.2 million, and of that $1.2 million, we couldn't get it forgiven. The controller admitted at that point in time to the mayor that it was not an amount of money that could be forgiven because it was included in their $8.3 million bond for consolidation of all their previous debts. And we all know that story there. It's been, you know, widely publicized that they got this loan from the state designed to clear out all their past debts and, you know, proceed forward with a 10-year bond. So upon hearing that, you know, I will say this, all along, I was certainly in favor of restructuring something with them from the standpoint that, you know, it was just sitting there anyway. And some repayment agreement was better than no repayment agreement. But then upon hearing from them that this $1.2 million portion of it that you see is the subject of this resolution was included in the bond, my opinion began to change. I thought to myself, goodness, you know, some of this money dated back to 2005. About all of it dated back to 2013. We've been carrying them all this time. We haven't been aggressive about it, you know, as far as legal action or charging them interest or anything of this nature. So I thought if we had an opportunity to be paid in full, that we should pounce on that rather than kick this can down the road any further. And but obviously then COVID hit and this kind of went by the wayside. and because there was other things that needed everybody's attention. Then towards the end of May, Legislator Patel contacted some of us and said, you know, what do you think about this? And then on June 1st, sent a couple of us an email along with the county executive with a proposed outline for a resolution of structuring some debt here. And I had indicated at that time in an email response to Legislator Patel that I don't know that I was, you know, things have changed since March 5th. And if this money is going to be part of this bond issue, I don't know that I'm in favor of stretching this out any further, especially if we're going to get paid in full. And that was my pre-COVID thought to begin with. This had been out there long enough. Somebody was going to come in and take care of this. It was going to wipe the slate clean, our slate, their slate. Let's move forward with that. So, you know, from that point forward, you know, I was a little skeptical on this. So, you know, why should we do that at that particular point in time? And then on top of that, exacerbating the situation was the look we took at our finances the past 2 months, looking at things being cut 20%, looking at sales tax, you know, that could be down $3, $4, $5 million. And that just even added more fuel in my mind's eye to the notion that we should take this money if it's being included in the bond issue, because our own finances were in jeopardy of taking a serious hit this year. And so, you know, why should we kick the can down the road any further? For that reason, as the, you know, the leniency that we had with them over that long period of time, and letting this money ride, so to speak. So, you know, throughout the time period, there was conversations about it. You know, the treasurer got involved. The treasurer indicated, hey, look, you know, I've heard from both the controller's office and Bonadeo, our accounting firm, that in any intermunicipal interfund transaction, a rate of interest probably should be charged. Can we charge 0%? We could, hypothetically, but, you know, they're recommending something be charged. And also, it became apparent to us that, you know, they were originally looking for a 40-year plan on this, which was, you know, kind of outlandish under the circumstances. And so the treasurer reminded us, you know, the treasurer gained some comfort with this before we knew that the money was perhaps included in their bond, under the premise that we could take the payment for this money out of their sales tax and then assure ourselves of an income stream to pay us back. And why not exercise that prudence under a set of circumstances where this entity had failed? Yes, it wasn't this administration, understood, but where this entity had failed to pay us on a timely basis for an extended period of time. So that's why some of the bullets in this resolution, as you see it, are here. You know, and also in the memo that the treasurer wrote regarding his opinion on the transaction. And so that's some background on the history and the evolution of this, which I just wanted to remind everybody of it if it had escaped you. So here we are. Now, this afternoon, the mayor contacted me. The mayor was made aware of Sean's memo when it came out yesterday, and contacted the executive, and then today contacted me. And you know, and I had told Legislator Patel, even on June 1st, who called me after I responded to his email regarding this, that I would support this, and I was ready to support this if they had no other alternative but for us to restructure this. but with the potential for this loan to pay us off, why should we ever do that? And I said, if you can get something from the mayor attesting to the fact that this money is not and was never considered part of that amount, $8.3 million bond, and they don't have the means to pay it off via that bond, then, you know, that would be a solid piece of documentation to support our ability to structure this outside of their debt refinance. I did not see that document in the 2 weeks that have elapsed since then. And today I expressed the same opinion to the mayor. I said, look, you know, if you can attest to the fact that money was never included in that bond, and it, because there was a piece of me that upon reading about this in the newspapers, you know, seeing the Amsterdam's being approved for a bond of up to 8.3 million, and then of late it's for 7.1 million. You know, that started to look a little strange to me too, because the difference between those two figures is $1.2 million. And I wanted to know from the mayor that somewhere along the line, he did not get any assurances or anything of that nature that this money would be able to be structured with us, thereby curtailing the amount of the bond he was applying for. And the mayor insisted that that wasn't the case on the phone today, and that that he had his accounting firm and another financial services company whose name escapes me, who's reviewed their finances, who said it was never included in the umbrella of the bond financing. So I said to him, if you can get us a letter addressed to the executive and to the entire legislature, pointing out the fact that, and attesting to the fact that this money was never part of their debt refinancing, then that could be a piece of useful documentation and allowing us to consider the restructure of this ourselves with them. So, and he indicated to me that he would do that. I have not seen the letter yet. We then got into a little bit of a discussion about the terms of the loan. And I indicated to him that, you know, I don't know that, you know, it makes sense for us to restructure our debt for a term beyond what the New York State was willing to do with all their other debt. And he said he really wanted 20 years on this. He needed 20 years on this. And I indicated to him, well, there's a way to structure a loan that way, which is we can have this loan if he gives us this proof and we're able to structure this loan, we can have the loan balloon in 9 years, because that's when our sales tax agreement expires with the city. We can't operate on the understood impression that, oh, it renews, so why not do it for a straight 20 years? Also, that gives both parties time to revisit it, in my opinion. And if things are much better, why should the county wait another 11 years for the remainder of that money if it could, in fact, at that point in time, be structured over 3, 4, 5 years, the balance at the end of the 9-year term? So that's where I'm at on it right now. I know what the resolution says right here, and I know it looks like we're looking to fill in the blanks here with a rate and a term. So with that, that's my opening discussion on this. Giving you background, giving you my thought process throughout the whole ordeal. And I certainly will open up this floor for discussion. Now, before I do that, though, I will say this. In discussing with Sean this afternoon, this whole concept upon hearing from the mayor, Sean has, our treasurer, indicated he would like something in writing from the state as well that indicates that that original amount of money they were approved for never included this $1.2 million as further attestation. So now let me open the floor, please, for discussion.
Number 4, legislator Pep.
Yes.
Then why would we act on this and not just wait and give them the time to produce this letter, and then move forward at that point.
That is that is a
Can I address
potential
that?
strategy. You know, that is a potential angle.
Can I address that, please?
Legislator Patel.
The opportunity right now is that they're going into their budget period and they can budget for this money now. And their budget is really tight. And as you know, their budget is late. So the opportunity is to get something in writing, to get something on the books for this year, get it in their budget, so we get paid. In the event, we still have a week between now and the meeting when we're going to vote on it. So that gives them a week to fulfill legislator Pep's request. And if you're not satisfied at that time, then vote no for it.
Certainly another angle of approach, Legislator Patel.
Mr. Chairman.
Legislator Duchessis, yes.
Let me present yet another angle.
Sure.
This resolution simply is designed to bring this to closure. We can have some input with regard to the percentage and the length of time, etc. But we get these detailed histories about what happened when 15 years later. We need to act now to bring this to closure. We want to go back and start to look at what's happened in the past. There's been a complete failure on behalf of the county to collect these monies. So I think we need to reconcile that. This is a mechanism by which to address that. Just assume for a minute that no resolution is passed regarding this matter. What happens then? How does the county get its money?
Absolutely.
Can I speak?
Who is this?
This is Sean. Can I speak up?
Yeah, Sean. Go ahead, Sean. I was just going to ask you to speak anyway from the standpoint that I don't believe it was failure on our part to collect this. There was failure on the city's part to be able to provide us with the proper information. But go ahead, for us to handle this properly. But go ahead, Sean.
Just to address Duke's point of a failure on the county to try and reconcile. I reach out to the city every year, to the city controller, to get reconciling numbers from him. I got no response for about 6 straight years. Until we started this discussion, until the state came in, and now that they've found, and the city never admitted that they collected this money and never paid it over to the county. They use it for operations. It was not correct. It was inappropriate. It was erroneous. Granted, it was a previous administration, but it wasn't right. And now that they've been caught, it's out in the open. It needs to be addressed. And to do a 20, 30, 40-year interest-free loan is not in the best financial position for the county. I'm taking this from a county perspective, countywide, especially in the situation we're in with COVID. If we have to go out at the end of the year and borrow short-term money, it's going to cost us 2% interest on that money. This is something that if the city's able to borrow and pay us off, I believe it should be addressed now, not pushed out 20, 30 years.
Mr. Chairman, I was simply addressing the fact that you used the word leniency for that time period. I don't think it was a matter of leniency. That was the reason that we didn't collect the money. Second, I'd like to know what the plans are if we cannot come to a resolution here.
I think it's an either or, the Legislator Duchessis. I think that if he gets us the documentation and we can settle on a structure that we can agree on, that we can move forward with it. And it's as simple as that. And I don't think when I use the word leniency, I don't think people sat down from 2005 through 2015 and when all this money accumulated and said, I think we'll be lenient with them this year. I think we'll be lenient with them the next year. But looking at the past as an overview, it certainly was a period of leniency where more strict measures could have been taken to collect this and weren't.
Mr.
And
Chairman,
I'm only mentioning that because, you know, I don't want, I think it's worth mentioning because if we have to charge them interest, I don't a crime to charge them interest when it could have happened over this period of time and did not.
Mr. Chairman, you told me what they didn't say. What did they say? What efforts were made really to collect when the city controller was contacted and didn't reply? Then what? So that we can just continue like this forever if we don't resolve this in some manner.
Oh, no, absolutely. The matter needs a resolution, Legislator Duchessis. It absolutely does. And I agree with you 100% on that. You're right.
I'd like, Chair, if
Yes.
I could. One, the past is the past. Was it criminal? I don't know.
Nobody said it was criminal.
No, I'm making a statement. I said, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. Was it malfeasance? I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not interested in that. They've recognized that they owe us $1.2 million plus the $500,000 roughly of the uncollectible amount. I think we can all agree on that, right? And the fact of the matter is you have a mayor now that is trying to be fiscally responsible. He's trying to set this up and increase our relationships. He would like to stand up and do the right thing. And the past is the past. We owe it, they owe it, they know it. Whatever it was, I really don't care. We have an opportunity now to quickly start getting paid. And if we went at 1% at 20 years, we're looking at about $72,000, $74,000 that we didn't get before, that we haven't collected in the past 13 years. And
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
Can I finish, please?
1%. Absolutely.
Okay. So we can agree on that. So all that's left to say, look, how are we going to rectify this? Are we going to say, call the note, if you will, for $1.2 million? You're not going to get blood from a stone. They don't have it.
Nobody's even proposing that, Legislator Patel. Nobody's even proposing that.
Michael, I'm talking, and I'd appreciate it if I could finish. Okay?
Please do so.
And I will. So they cannot write a check today. They cannot go out and bond for this. They have $600,000 left that they can bond for at 5%. The interest rate to us is not going to make a difference of whether the county survives or the county fails. We have the opportunity to get this going. We have the opportunity, and we have two willing parties. I say we move on it. And if you'd like to wait until next week to see whether you get those documents, so be it. But I think it's time we move on this. We put the history behind us and we make a financial decision and live with it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Legislator Duchessis.
I'd like to agree with that. You know, in the absence of any Deus Ex Machina, I think we need to come to our own solution.
Yes, I agree. And Legislator Patel, just one item of clarification that I want to point out. If you're sitting there telling me that if we had the chance to take the 1.2 million from a state loan and you would have preferred to restructure it for a longer period of time, I am in total disagreement with that. But I agree that if there's no other means to collect it, we should move forward with this plan.
So let me address, can I address that? Excuse me.
Can I address something, Chairman?
I think, Sean, that I was asking to be.
Yes, go ahead, legislator.
So if I had my choice for the city of Amsterdam, whether they had to pay 5% on a $1.2 million loan, or for us to take a 0 or 1% interest loan, I think I would think about it, because the city is part of us. The city is a major industrial and financial contributor in our community. They provide services and infrastructure to the smart surrounding communities. They're very important. Would I like to make it so they can recover faster and have better cash flow so they don't have to borrow $10 million or $2 million every May? Absolutely.
Thank you for your opinion. Legislator or Treasurer Barman? Treasurer Barman?
Like I said, from a fiscal, yes, can you hear me? From a fiscal perspective of the county, you have to see what's fiscally responsible for the county as a whole. Yes, the city is a major contributor of the county, but if the state authorizes the city to use this bonding authorization to pay the county back, I think the county should take the upfront money, especially with the times we're dealing with the pandemic. Like I said, you've seen the COVID the COVID results so far. We've lost 1.5 million of sales tax. Social service claims are being held pending state financial situation. Grant funding. These up to $6 million for the beach nut or demolition. Those reimbursements are on hold pending the state's financial condition. So all these things are going to come out of the county fund balance. And another thing, this $1.2 million is on the county books as a receivable. That is part of the county's fund balance. So if at all this county has the opportunity to collect this money this year from the city, I think from a county financial perspective, the county should act on that.
But they
Chairman?
don't.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to talk a minute.
Yes, Chairman Isabel.
I think that number one, because the city's made mistakes over the years, 2 times, a matter of fact. They were bailed out by the county before. Is that fair to the rest of the residents of the county, that we go in and we bail them out again? And in the meantime, we let them take the money that they can bond for and use it for something else, potentially using it for something that, what politicians usually do. I'm sorry to say that. I think number one, if we have a chance to get part of that money, and if we're thinking about the county and we're thinking about the people in the county as a whole, not the city, the whole county, if we're thinking about them, we'll take that money that you said they can get as far as their bonding from the state, and then we go from there. We're not going to desert them. If you need in the future to help them out, you're there to help them out again. But at least we got that much in to protect the county going forward, as we don't know what's going to happen, period. If you're sticking up for the city, fine, that's all, but we have a county. You were elected as a representative of the city and the county. Thank you.
Chairman?
Yes, legislator.
Again, I'm going to, even if they provide this letter saying that it wasn't part of their loan from New York State, I think figuring out what we're going to do, interest rates, years, and all that, is something that we need to sit and discuss. And I don't think that getting the information this week and sitting down and talking about it in next week's meeting is enough time. And I think that's why I again propose that we say that we're going to do something, but it will be done at next month's meeting when the documents can be provided. If they can't be provided, then we we make a decision at that time. If they provide the documents, then we have time to hash out how many years, interest rates, and all that information, because I think we're taking an issue that's a very large, complex issue and trying to decide real quick on what to do. This has been going on for a long period of time, and yes, I do agree that it needs to be taken care of, but it doesn't need to be taken care of at the 11th hour. And I'm sorry that the city of Amsterdam has just realized now that they need to put a budget together and have a budget done, but that's not our problem.
Well, I think, any other comment?
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would hope that we could keep this conversation really to the best interests of the county and the city. I'm sure, you know, there just have been a lot of different people who have been responsible for or irresponsible going back. And I think the Mayor Cinquanti is working as hard as he can to get the city out of the position that it's in. And I think that we need to work hard to come to resolution for this. I would hope that the old county city animus really was disappeared a long time ago with that form of government that we had.
Thank you, Legislator Duchessis. I'm at a point here where I'd like to propose move forward with the resolution but amending it. Who keeps amending it?
Legislator Pep,
Yes.
can I propose an amendment saying that we do a loan for 20 years at a 1% interest and move it to the full ledge?
I'll second that.
Well, I'd like to add to that amendment, contingent upon the provision of documentation that we discussed here.
Well, no, I
Mr. Chairman,
understand that we're
Mr.
waiting on
Chairman,
documentation, but we don't need to add that to the resolution to move it from committee.
Okay.
And you can just vote no next week if you don't get it.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I think you should entertain the motion to amend.
Yeah, no, I want to entertain the motion to amend, but and on another thing, I'm not comfortable with a straight 20-year term here with a sales tax agreement that runs out. You know, I would see it balloon at the end of 9 years and then, you know, a 9-year term and a 20-year amortization.
Mr. Chairman, there's been a motion to amend. We have not moved that to the table, so we're not even discussing that amendment.
I seconded it.
Could someone clarify what the amendment is, please?
Martin did it for a
20
20-year period at a 1% interest.
Thank you.
And we have a second from Legislator Pertel.
Yes.
All right, well, then we should have a vote. Can we go?
Do you want a roll call?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Legislator Sweet.
Aye.
Legislator Thayer.
Aye.
Legislator Headwell.
No.
Legislator Wilson.
Aye.
Legislator Duchessis.
Aye.
Chairman Isabel.
No.
Legislator Pertel.
Aye.
Chairman of
Mr.
Budget, Finance,
Chairman, this is for 20 years?
Yes. Cheryl?
So
That's a
the
joke.
amendment passes.
Okay. All right, well, then we will see this amendment next week and hopefully we get the documentation we need to approve it, but it appears academic at this point without that language in it, but because those who voted for it just now will vote for it next week.
Chair, if I might,
Yes.
This is John Thayer.
Yes,
You know,
legislator.
I think I've been mulling this over as much as the rest of you have. It's been very difficult for me to swallow the fact that the monies have been collected and then not turned over to the county. Being a former town supervisor, and our town clerks were responsible for very much the same thing, collecting the county taxes and then turning them over to the county. That being said, this has been going on for quite some time. It's been out there, been hanging out there for over a decade. I can remember discussing this when I was a supervisor. We obviously have a mayor that is willing to do something to make this right. And I'm of the mind at the moment that a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. We've got a man in Amsterdam that's willing to step forward and make payments. Let's take what we can get and get this behind us. That's all I've got to offer.
Thank you, legislator Thayer. I agree with you as well. Unless the money was available in one fell swoop, and then I would disagree with that. But and I agree with legislator Patel on that all along. All right. Any other items for discussion?
Mr. Chairman, we haven't really moved the resolution. We just passed the amendment. So the resolution is amended.
Okay, I'm sorry. Cheryl?
A roll call on the resolution is amended.
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis,
Aye.
Chairman Isabel,
No.
Legislator Patel,
Aye.
Chairman of Budget and Finance Pep,
No.
Legislator Kelly,
Aye.
Legislator Sweet,
Aye, sorry.
Legislator Thayer,
Aye.
Legislator Headwell,
No.
Legislator Wilson.
Aye.
The resolution moves to the full board.
Very good. All right, thank you. Is there any other items for discussion?
Motion.
A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, and a second?
5.
All right, thank you, 5. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you for the great discussion.
It was a great discussion. Thank you.
Good
I
night.
guess our meeting is adjourned.